Hi guys, in this lesson I will show you how to use curve networks from CAD systems like Alias, Rhino, and Rhino's parametric modeling tool Grasshopper for graphic design. You might ask, why is this important? What benefits can it offer you as a CAD sculptor or aspiring to be one? Well, being a CAD sculptor, industrial concept designer, 3D artist, motion designer, UI designer, or any other designer fundamentally means you must be a designer first. Thus, you'll need to create graphics and graphical assets, depending on your industry, either sporadically or as a part of your daily job. For example, as industrial concept designer, to sell an idea, you might need to render a model. For this, you'll need stencils and textures. As a UI designer, you might need greeblies and primitives. As a graphical designer, you'll need logotypes and icons, and so on and so forth. Many of these assets are vector-based, which can either be rasterized or kept as vectors according to your needs. Now, we got quite a few programs for building vector assets. The mighty Adobe Illustrator, Corel Designer, Corel Draw, Affinity Designer, Inkscape, Adobe XD, Sketch, and of course, the worst tool ever created by man, Figma. All of these programs are designed to create vector assets based on curve networks, which, you guessed it, are NURBS curves. However, there is a catch. All these tools and many others in the category of vector graphic editors suffer from one critical flaw. They lack constraints. Almost all, except the Corel family, lack tangent constraint, and every single one lack curvature constraint. They also don't have proper curve analysis tools and constraint history. Therefore, designers working with these tools on complex curves rely mostly on their eyes to construct things. And this makes maintaining curvature and acceleration difficult, if not impossible. And that sucks, isn't it? In contrast, any CAD system, even the shittiest like, plasticity, is 10 times better at creating constrained curve networks than all vector graphic editors combined. But what if I told you that you could take a curve network from a CAD system straight into your vector graphic editor of choice, bypassing the limitations and capitalizing on their strength, which is compositing, something CAD systems are not designed for and, well, can do. Basically, merging two worlds using the best of both. It is possible, it is very simple, and all industrial designers capitalize on this. So let me show you how to do this on a simple example. And while I was talking, you looked at a curve network that forms a symbol you might call the infinity sign in Alias. In science, it's known as the lemniscate of Bernoulli, a curve with very specific mathematical proportions. I will show you the proper one later in this video when we will look at Rhino and Grasshopper. This form isn't a true lemniscate of Bernoulli, but rather my let's say personal hand-biased interpretation. I choose it because it's simple enough that you should have no problems making it in any vector editor, right? Let's figure it out starting from Alias. So what I will do is I will quickly recreate it. Not necessarily like one-to-one, but just a close approximation. So let me do it. So I don't know what is this. Let me just delete this layer. Right, just create a new one and see where the original points were. It were here. So let me just quickly stall it like this. And okay, the history is, the symmetry is in the wrong position. So I need to set the proper symmetry. So let's set the symmetry plane here and then turn it on. Perfect. Now let me bring more degrees. I will probably bring 3. Just push it somewhere else. Somewhere up, sorry. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And let me use the blend curve to construct the transition. Right. So it looks very similar, but I'm not sure that this is accurate enough. Now, for a naked eye, it looks okay, but let's check it. In CAD systems, we have an ability to check it, constructing or creating a curvature plot. So let me do that. And if I will increase the density and quality, you will notice that I have this kind of dimple here. And that means that even though that we maintaining a curvature and we actually have a curvature constraint, because this one greens, it's under the history, whatever I do with this control vertice will change the curve, which something which vector graphic editors just don't have. But actually, I need to tweak it a little bit. So let me do that. So probably I will, I don't know, move it maybe a little bit. Now that just changes the original form quite significantly, and it tells me that I just don't have enough resolution. So let me select the curve and get another degree here. It'll be 4. And I will move it a little bit here. And these ones probably a little bit, maybe somewhere here, maybe a little bit to the left. And then this one. Now, once again, I don't have necessarily the goal to replicate the curve I already did. There is no really need for that. But maybe this one is a little bit better. Let me quickly check it. Increase. Yeah, we still have some. It's much softer now, but I believe that's still this need to let me use the specific modifications to move it very slightly. Maybe somewhere here, like that. Well, it's close. Let me bring 5 degrees now and maybe just tighten that just a little bit. Maybe I'd say this one is good enough. All right, let me check it. Okay, cool. So we actually done. So let me hide this original model. Let me delete the history. I don't need that anymore. Let me turn off the symmetry and just flip it on the other side. All right, now before we perform the export from these curves to the vector graphic editor of choice, mine is Illustrator, what I would like to do specifically for this form is I would like to join the curves, because right now they're separate. This is separate, this is separate, this is separate, this is separate. So I won't be joining it completely to create a periodic curve. Instead, I will just leave one of the edges not connected, so basically just stuck together. So let me do that. I will use the tool called Join Curves. This is the part of Key Point Curve Toolbox, just in case you're interested. Now, if you're not the veteran of this really tiny channel, you actually a UI designer or a graphical designer, don't worry necessarily about the tools and stuff. It's just more like a demo for you to understand what the curved networks are how the curved networks are represented in CAD systems. The people who actually work with Alias or the other CAD systems, they knows very well what it is. So basically create the connection here. Let me keep going here and here. Okay, so now I have a curve, and this is a non-periodic curve, so I still have these 2 points separate, but this is good enough for me. Now, so I have my curve network. I want to export it to my vector graphic editor. So there is a few options, and depends on the graphic editor which you're using. Yeah, the option may be different. So for Corel Designer and Corel Draw, the best way will be to export it as a DVG or DXF format. If you are in Illustrator, you can export it straight into Illustrator, which is extremely useful. Now let me show you how to do it. Now, one note: if you have an educational license, you out of luck, because educational license doesn't give you an ability to export anything. So there is no way to do it. And I guess you know what to do, right? When it is the case. So anyway, you select your objects which you want to export. You go to the File, you go to the Export, and if you click on Active As on this icon, there is quite a lot of formats. And I suggest to use DVG or DXF, these two, to export into the Corel Designer or Corel Draw. And if you really want to export into the Illustrator, you will go to the File, Export, and there is just an option, Illustrator, and it actually creates the Illustrator file. So if I click on here, there is quite a few parameters, but as it's vector, the horizontal and vertical size are, well, it's not really important. What is important is the curve fit distance, this one. So mine is set to 0.01. By default, I believe it is 0.1. Be reasonable with this. There is no need to go overboard, otherwise you will have a lot of segments. So this is good enough for almost everything, if not for everything. So you have your curve fit distance, you hit go, and it just asks you where you want to export it. Now I export it right here, like just in my desktop. Hit save, and well, basically that's it. Now different tools, different CAD systems have a slightly different UI, of course, and different approaches. I will show you the way how to do it from the Rhino, which is a very popular CAD system as well, and the Grasshopper as well. So now let me go to the Illustrator. So I'll open up the Illustrator here. There's my Illustrator, right? Let me just... All right. So I'm in the Illustrator. This is just a blank file. And you know what? Before I will import our curve, I actually want to quickly show you what is the problem with the tools like Illustrator and its rivals. Just by trying to replicate the same form, not necessarily even close to be like that, I just kind of randomly try. I will try to create the somewhat like a lemniscate Bernoulli sign. So to do that, most of the tools has most of these programs have very specific tools which give you an ability to create curves. One of them is most prominent one is the pen tool. It exists everywhere, and it gives you an ability to create how it's called in these vector graphic editors, a Bezier curve. Now, well, it is a Bezier curve. In fact, it is a NURBS curve. And as you can see, I can create pretty kind of freehand the curve. Now the problem with this is quite obvious, is these handles, right? It's very difficult to manipulate, it's very difficult to be spot on. It's just horrible way of working with these curves. So even though that they're in the NURBS curves, they don't have a constraints. So as you can see, like I can do it like this, for example, right? So instead of a curvature, I have a position. And now I have a curvature. But how good is this curvature? Well, who knows? You can check it. Well, you can't check it now. And this is true for all of the tools like Illustrator. Now, another tool which most of the system have, it called differently from tool to tool. Here in Illustrator, it called curvature. So here is a hover, I believe it's curvature. Yeah, it is a curvature. Now, basically, what it does, it just constructs the curve through the points, and it called curvature because its premise is that it always maintains curvature between the points. And you might say, that's a constraint, isn't it? I mean, yes, it does, but you can't do anything with it. It doesn't have any history. You can't change one component and everything else will not follow. So there is no history to that. So there is actually no constraint. Now I would say the other tools like let's say Coral Designer and even Figma, actually, they have the tool, I believe it's called the NURBS curve, which kind of give you a little bit different type of curve, because these two curve, the standard curve, like a Bezier curve, and this curve they called curvature. In industrial design, they actually have the one name they called interpolated curve. They called interpolated curve because they create the curve through the set of points. So curve passes through the point. But there is another type of NURBS curve, which the difference is just how it constructed. It constructs not through the points, but you set control vertices, which defines the curve. So these points, this curve will not necessarily flow through these points. They are a little bit more softer. And this is something I used, for example, when I built the infinity sign in the Alias just a couple minutes ago. Now, the Illustrator doesn't have it, but even if you have, it will not help you because, once again, they are not constrained. So no matter how you try, you will be unconstrained and basically supposed to do some, supposed to do some shitty maneuvers, some shenanigans to really make it work. So what I will try to do anyway, I will just, now I will not be using this tool. It's really difficult to maintain, difficult to control completely. So instead I will use the curvature tool. And let me just try to, I don't know, kind of create the proper symbol. So where it could go, I don't know, maybe here, right? So maybe something like this. All right, well, we kind of get something, right? We get somewhere. Now, how good is this curve? Well, I see it by a naked eye that it's horrible. Now, of course, I can kind of try to move these points, and I'm not using symmetry because symmetry in Illustrator is, oh my god, it's horrible. But kinda, we can even do like some cheeky stuff. We can just kind of basically scale it, right? And like, that's fine, that's okay. No, it's not fine and it's not okay. It's visible that it's just wrong. Now, it's not controlled. Now, for example, if I would like to slide this point forward to create a little bit more, a little bit less punch here, but I can't slide it. I can't go in normal direction. I can't follow the path. There's just nothing I can do here. And it's true for any tool like Illustrator. It's horrible. So basically, you're stuck with what you have. Now, another option maybe, well, why not to try to start with a circle, right? Now, when you start with a circle, it definitely will not be a lemniscate because the lemniscate has a constant curvature change, so there is no constant radii. That's one of the main kind of specifics of this curve, the way how they construct it. But we can just, anyway, we still can kind of pick it, put it somewhere here, and maybe we'll just delete these edges, right? And let me just go to the curve tool again. It is supposed to work, I believe. Fuck. Yeah, well, it didn't go as planned. It's not, still kind of sucks. Anyway, we can always kind of, you know, squash it again. And like, well, we did a great job, right? So yeah, that's the issue. And this is a very simple form. It's extremely simple form, just a one line. So you may imagine when you'll do a complex graphics or logotypes or, you know, a blueprint of a spaceship, well, you're basically fucked. You wouldn't be able to be spot on and very specific. And of course, you can't do, you know, G2 fillets or G3 fillets. Now you're out of options. So let me actually import the curve we actually have. So I will go to the file, I'll go open, and I will go to the desktop, and I will pick the file. Here it is, and let me just copy it into this one. Here we go. This is our original curve, which we carefully constructed, and well, I believe you're gonna see the difference, isn't it? Just completely different. It's not even close. And the quality of that is actually quite good. So if I will activate it, you're going to see that there is a pretty accurate structure, and it's clean. So what am I gonna do with it next? Well, basically anything I want. I can prepare it for a motion design. So basically having the center line and then offset the shape. And this is what I'm saying about the compositing, that you can do a lot of stuff which these tools are actually good at. Well, except of the Figma, because, for example, now without any plugins, I can just go in, select the form. Let me just make it black, for example, and offset the path. So offset the path. And you might say, well, it's very simple, right? Well, guess what? Figma, I don't know how it's now. I bet I checked it like a year ago. It doesn't have an offset tool by default in the system. So you need to download the plugin. That's ridiculous. Anyway, here is our offset. We have our offset. I can just quickly construct the shape from that. And here is my shape. Let's put it down, and there is supposed to be my path. There is my path. Let me change the color just for you to see. So, and that's great. That means I have a shape, I have a path, and now I can, for example, throw it into After Effects, and I can animate the path, and the shape will follow, right? And once again, I can go in, maybe delete this one, and just increase the stroke, right? Then just convert it to the shape, right? And go to the object, expand this, right? And I'm gonna take this form, right? And I can throw it into the Photoshop and make it work with it as a, let's say, a smart object, or rasterize it, you know, and use a mask for something or whatever. So sky's is the limit. Or maybe let's say I just do some other stuff. Let me say I want to have a gradient here, for example. Something which Illustrator is good for is creating the gradients on a path, and I would say that I would like to have a gradient on a path, and let me come on. Let me say it will be white. Here we go. And maybe move that. Oops. Like, and let me change the type of stroke to something like this, right? And maybe I can, I can change the colors if I wanted to. Just kind of copy this. Oh, fuck. I didn't check my bad. Let's do it like this. Now the Illustrator itself is quite slow, and we all know this. It's kind of clunky. That's because of the Adobe. They better kind of introduce another kind of AI filter or whatever, instead of thinking about the performance and the proper proper solution for the existing tools. Some of them will not update it, didn't update for like a decade or so, and yeah, this is what it is. Anyway, so you're gonna have your curves, and you're gonna do whatever you want with them, right? Let me just kind of do some random stuff here. Well, anyway, you get the point. So basically, having the proper curve, you have a proper result. If you don't have a proper curve, you will stuck with stuff like this, and then good luck changing that, right? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, and it will, that sucks. And this is not the problem for the only with the Illustrator, as I mentioned. It's the problem for all of the vector graphic editors on the market today, which is unfortunate, because the requests for constraints in the Illustrator forums were appearing, I believe, the first time like maybe 12 years ago, and they are still there, and nobody really cares about that. Developers are not interested at all. But we have our CAD systems, and CAD systems gives us an ability to create whatever we want and then just import it here. Now, let me now show you the proper lemniscate, just for your interest. So let me open up the Rhino. Now this is the Rhino, the Rhino itself. Here it is, and this is on top is a Grasshopper. Grasshopper is a parametric modeling tool built in within the Rhino. You can download it separately, and it can suck to other CAD systems, but I believe natively it's better it works best with Rhino. It's pretty much the rival for the Dynamo. for Autodesk products, but honestly better. It's faster, and I really like the data management here. Now, this is not the lesson about the Grasshopper or the lesson about the Rhino. What I want to say is that this small script basically creates us a proper lemniscate. Its scale, its proportions are perfect. So this is the actual lemniscate Bernoulli. This is the way how it's supposed to be. And if you really want to be a parametric, you don't want to intervene with your human bias, well, you're going to use the formulas and just construct it the way you want. And as you can see, that's very easy to create the closed curves. So now let me actually export that into the Illustrator as well. So I will click the node, I click bake, like this. Now let me select the object. This is our object. As you can see, it's the Rhino. It's a generalized CAD software, and this is the Grasshopper. So the quality of the curve, the interpolation of it is slightly worse because it needs to make it properly, you need more points, more spans basically. But that's fine for what we need to do. It's still good. In terms of math, it's perfect. So let me go to the file. I'll go export, select it, this one. Now I will go to the, let's say, desktop and find the Illustrator. And here we go. The Rhino can export in Illustrator as well. A lot of CAD systems can export in Illustrator, so this is not the only two. So now let's say 2, and I hit save. Now it would give me the export options. They're slightly different. I will not do anything here. I will just click OK. And I will go to my Illustrator. I will open this file. Here it is. Let me just select that and just place it somewhere here. Now the scale is different, but it's vector based, right? So I can scale it, and here we go. And once again, I can do the same stuff which I did with the object from Alias. So I can take that, I can bring a stroke, I can expand, I can do, well, whatever I want, really, whatever I want. Yeah, you can have a perfect structures as well. So it's just a better way of working. For example, you need an icon, you need some gribbly, you need a beautiful arrow maybe for some UI parts, maybe you need some beautiful stencil for the bonnet of your car, right, for your model which you made in Alias, or maybe you did it polygonally. It doesn't really matter. Well, you want to be spot on, you use CAD systems to create the proper curve networks. So in conclusion, combining CAD systems curve network creation capabilities with vector graphic editors for compositing is very powerful. In industrial design, this approach used all the time. But in graphic design, it's mostly undiscovered due to, well, let's say a lack of awareness. But now you, my dudes, are in the know, so use it to your advantage. And yeah, that's it for this lesson. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.